Hey guys, it's Caleb from Rokblokz. Today in the shop we have this 2023 Colorado ZR2. We've got a new mud flap kit for it, so let's go ahead and show you how to install it. Here we have the tools laid out that you'll need for install. You'll need a hammer or mallet to help press in your flange nuts. You'll need a 4mm Allen, a T15 Torx, an 1/8" Allen, and then you'll also need a level. We'll also be using this, but it's not required. Now, let's head to the vehicle and begin installing. Here we have your front laid out. What you'll get in your kit is your flap for that corner. You'll get your shim mount plate. You'll get your ABS mount plate. You'll get your brackets and your hardware. We'll go ahead and put a breakdown of that hardware on the screen right now. Before we head to the vehicle, we're going to go ahead and pre-assemble this flap on the bench. So let's go ahead and get that started. To begin, we're going to take our ABS, we're going to take our flange nuts, and we're going to press those in from the edge side. Take your hammer, might take a little bit of force. You want to make sure that the hex is lined up with the hex hole in the ABS before pressing. If not, you can damage your bracket. Now let's go ahead, take our mount plate and our shim. We'll grab our flap. Our shim is going to go like this and align with the two holes and the edge along here. We'll take our ABS. That's also going to line up. We're just going to stack those like so. We'll go ahead and get them in loosely using our 1/8" screws. We're just going to thread those into the flange nuts. And on those flange nuts, you want to make sure that the flange is on the opposite side. The flange is going to act like a retainer and keep that pinched together. So let's get those just lightly aligned and lightly screwed together. Only a couple threads to start. Now we're going to take our bracket. We're going to tuck that inside. Like so. You can do that while it's still really loose is your best, so that way it can fit up in there. Then we'll take our bottom bracket, and these are going to step forward. If we're looking at the flap, the logo is going to be the back side. We want these to step towards the tire. So with those set up like that, we can go ahead and get our 1/8" screws to go through both of those holes as well. Now we can take our 1/8" Allen and we can go ahead, and the top and the middle one we can fully tighten. Get those nice and snug. And these other two, we're just going to barely get them just enough that we can still kind of move the brackets around with a little force. So we'll go ahead, there we go. That adjusting like so. Now we're ready to take our flap, head over to the vehicle, and begin installing. Here we are at the front of the vehicle. We're going to begin by removing the two factory screws located down here. First, we're going to remove the two factory screws here. Then we're going to reuse those screws for our installation. We're going to remove those screws using our T15 Torx. With those removed, we're going to hold on to those. Then we're going to grab our flap. We're now going to lift our flap up into position, aligning the brackets with the holes in the fender. This is why it's important to keep those loose, just to allow them to kind of flex and get into position. Now we're going to take our T15 Torx, and we're going to snug those down. Those lightly snugged, we can go ahead, adjust our flap, getting it into position. making sure the edge of the flap here follows the edge of the fender. And with that in position, we're now good to take our T15 Torx and we're going to fully tighten down the 2 OEM screws. After you've tightened down the 2 OEM screws, we're going to take our 1/8 inch Allen and we're just going to go along the edge of the flap, fully tightening down all of the screws here. Don't over tighten them, as they will just start to dig into the flap. So just get them nice and snug. And as you're tightening your flap, you'll want to go ahead and check alignment with level on the bottom edge. On the flange nuts, it is advised to use a little bit of thread locker just to make sure that they stay nice and tight and that will help with road vibration. Now with all screws fully tightened down, that completes the front install. You can repeat these same steps on the other side. Let's go ahead and jump to the rear. Here we have the rear laid out. What you'll get in your kit is your rear flap for that corner. Then you'll also get your rear mount plate and then the hardware. We'll go ahead and put a breakdown of that hardware on the screen right now. Now let's head over to the vehicle and begin installing. Here we are at the rear of the vehicle. We're going to begin by removing some factory screws. We're going to remove the 2 on the inside where the fender liner is. We're also going to remove this furthest out one on the fender's edge. And then the lower one here, we're just going to loosen. So let's go ahead, get those removed. And as we loosen this bottom one here, I'm just going to do it just a touch. All of those screws are a T15 Torx. We're going to set those to the side as we're going to reuse them for our install. Now with all of those out of the way, we're going to take our mount plate. We're going to take it so that the etching is facing towards the tire. And then we're going to tuck this edge behind the fender's edge, behind both the plastic and the metal fender. While we're doing that, we're going to align our mount hole 1 and 2 with the factory screw holes in the liner right here. To secure this, we're going to take our OEM screws. We're going to put those back into the clips that they came out of. Now we're going to take our tool. Now with those just lightly tightened down, you should still be able to move your mount plate at this point. We're going to get it and kind of adjust it, but we're not going to fully secure it till we have our flap in place. So yeah, let's grab our flap and begin mounting. To begin, we're going to take one of the 1¼ washers with the factory screw. We're going to begin by mounting at the point right here in the fender's edge. That's going to set our alignment for the flap, and then the mount plate will be aligned to that. So with that in place, we can now take our 16mm button head with a washer, and we're going to align that with the T-nut in the 0.4 right here in the mount plate. And then we'll do 5 and 6. For these, we're going to use our longer 25mm button head with a washer, and we're going to place a 5mm spacer on the back side. Then we'll align that with the T-nuts in the mount plate, getting those started by hand. If your mount plate isn't able to move, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult to get these screws to align, but having that loose and getting these aligned first is going to make it a lot easier. So let's go ahead, get our next one in place, find that T-nut, begin threading it in. Okay. Now that we've got all those in place, now we're going to pull our flap all the way out. And now we can go ahead and tighten down our mount plate. And now we'll also tighten our fender liner back up, going through the large hole in the bottom of the flap right here. Get that snugged up. Now we can go ahead and adjust our flap to our liking, checking the bottom with a level. And then we'll go ahead and get that tightened down. With everything fully tightened down, that's how you complete the rear install. You can repeat these same steps on the other side. Thanks for watching.